Greetings, this is Nathan Taylor from TaylorMade LLC, and I just want to shoot an instructional video on the Larks Head so that the people will know how to use it in tying up the TaylorMade anchor. So I want to go, there's a lot of different names for a Larks Head, and I think that's the first thing that we need to think about is the fact that the Larks Head has many other names. And you may know it by another name. And we have the Larks Head, but a lot of people rigging, they just call it a choke. Also, originally in sailing, it was called the bell hitch. It's a sling hitch. We use span sets today, and you could call it a span set hitch. And we'll sort of go over that. A ring hitch, a cow hitch, a tag hitch, and interestingly enough, as I will show you here, it's really nothing more than a square knot without the ends. So let's look at it in its application. Let's suppose you had a loop or a span set and you wanted to attach it to something. You could do it with a Larks Head, and you just take it and loop it on. And so there you go. That is the Larks Head right there. So you can see it's really simple. Now in our case, with the D35 show, we have these anchor loops that we want to attach to another loop. And what we're going to do is, when you get ready to attach these anchor loops, you'll just stack them up so that they're all together in one loop, sort of, and then you'll just Larks Head it on to the other loop. Just like that. And then that's how we put it on there, is with a Larks Head, or you could use another name for doing it. Now, I'll just point out something that you could Larks Head each individual loop on. You could put them on like this by just Larks Heading each individual loop onto the main anchor loop. And you could put them on there like that. But once you started putting weight on these loops, all of these loops are going to want to go to the bottom, to the center. And so knowing that is the reason why when we put these three anchor loops on there, we just put them together and then we Larks Head them on, so that now when they get pressure on them, they're already in the center. Of course, this would be rendered. You'd want to render them. But let's just look at something. A Larks Head really is nothing more than a square knot. So here we go. I'm going to tie a square knot. And you can see there is a knot that we know and we call as a square knot. It's also called a reef knot. But look at this. I can take this loop and I can Larks Head it on this other loop, and I can render it. And you can see that a square knot and a Larks Head really are the same knot. The only difference is that a square knot is tied with two ends, and a loop knot is, a Larks Head is just looped on there. So let's move on to attaching the tissue, the acrobatic fabric, to the anchor. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to do it with a Larks Head. But what we have is we've got the two ends of the tissue. We're going to use this rope because it'd be simpler to do. So that after we tie it, we end up with a loop down at the bottom for the performers. So the way that's done is we'll just take one of the ends and you see there what we've done now, rather than just looping it on, we have woven the end through there. But our situation is I really don't want to have both of these ends together. So you take the other end of the tissue and we start by weaving this through where the first tissue came out. So here we have an end, and so we're just going to follow him. We're going to take him and put him in where it came out, and then we're going to follow it around, and then it's going to come out in the other direction. So now we have it larks headed on with the two ends, rather than being on one side, they are one's on one side and one's on the other. So now when we pull, as we pull one, it tightens up the other end. And then since there is no name for this knot, I named it the Taylor hitch.